Hello, everybody. Welcome to Absolute Obscure with Josh and Rory. I'm Rory.
I'm Josh.
This is a podcast where we talk about movies that you definitely have never heard of. This week, we are talking about American Fork / Humble Pie.
Yeah.
It had 2 titles, which is usually a bad sign.
A bad sign,
A very
yes.
bad sign. But this was directed by Chris Bowman and written by Hubbel Palmer. Also stars Hubbel Palmer.
Oh, nice, yeah.
This has a 6.2 on IMDb with 717 votes and a 246 people on Letterboxd only.
Okay, nice.
Now, quick question, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look up anything about either Hubbel Palmer or Chris Bowman?
No.
Okay, well then I am excited to tell you that we have our first ever Oscar nominees
Wow.
on the podcast.
Oh, wow.
Now, admittedly, they were nominated for a short film, short animation, so
Yeah.
it doesn't count. But yeah, these guys are still work together. Chris Bowman never directed again. They're a writing duo. But they were Oscar nominated in 2020 for their short film, and their next movie you may have heard of is called Minecraft.
You know what's crazy is I did look up. I just kind of briefly looked up IMDb,
Yes.
and I was like, Minecraft movie.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, this guy. Okay,
they are the writers of the Minecraft movie.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yes.
I'm really happy that the people who made this movie ended up getting bigger jobs in
Yes.
Hollywood.
Because we have, I think without a doubt,
Yeah.
the best movie we've covered so far.
For sure. I'm actually really excited to talk about this movie.
This movie is so good, I started thinking of it as a real movie.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I think people should watch this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
And then, like you said after, it wasn't when you first sent it to me, but it also it's up on YouTube.
yes.
Free.
Yes.
So hopefully it is if
free
you
on
watch this.
YouTube
And
still.
yeah.
But it's available on like Tubi and a lot of places right now. But yes, this is a real movie. I don't want to talk it up too much because it is still quite low key. It's
Yeah.
a very low key movie. It's a movie that it was released in 2007.
Right.
And it's definitely a movie where the director and writer saw Napoleon Dynamite and thought, I can do that.
Very Napoleon Dynamite
Very
feel. Including the starting credits, which I thought were very nice and cute and good.
And I made that observation, the Napoleon Dynamite thing before looking up. Turns out, American Fork is a city in Utah.
I found this out after too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that Hubbel Palmer and Chris Bowman are both from the same what's it called? Mormons?
Okay.
Yeah, they're both Mormons, much like the director and John Heder from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe it's just the humor of
Utah.
of like Mormons in
Wow.
Utah. They wanted to make movies that didn't have like sex and drugs and swear words. That's like the main thing behind Napoleon Dynamite. He wanted to make a comedy that he could watch with his actual family.
Cool. You know what's funny is same thing, like along the same vein, I immediately looked this up being like, oh, is this the guy who made Napoleon Dynamite? From that feel. It definitely felt like that. Because that's what I was expecting to find.
Yes. I think it's mostly in the writing. Because Chris Bowman never directed again. I think you can feel he's like maybe a little uncomfortable with directing.
Yeah.
But the writing is very...
The writing's good. And
good.
And the acting's very good.
Acting is very good.
And I'm not surprised actually when you said that Hubbel Palmer
yes.
helped write it, because I was like, this guy is good.
Yeah.
I really like the character that he's playing, and I felt like I thought it would be too good of a coincidence if you wrote this movie and then we're like, just some guy came and crushed it was like, this is the exact vibe we're going for. So that makes a lot of sense.
This is the first time I tried this, but I had no success. But I did actually try and find him to reach out to see if he had anything to say about this movie. Yeah. It was no success this time, but I found out he is also a professor at the university he graduated from.
Wow.
A film professor now, too. So
the University of...
it's the
American Fork.
It's the really religious one there. I can't remember. If you watch TikToks, you'll see people go to this university and ask them, "Hey, would you rather say a curse word or like kill a dog?" And they'll be like, "Oh man, this is hard." I can't remember the name of the school, but
Oh man.
Yes.
So this one's good. It opens in a DMV.
We meet our lead character, who is Tracy.
Yeah.
He is he's supposed to be morbidly obese. That is kind of like, there's a lot of jokes about obesity and fat stuff. But look, he's like a big guy. Like, he's very tall, too.
Yeah.
So I never really, like, I thought he's a big guy, but I never thought of that as, like, a defining characteristic.
No, this is the worst part, is if this movie does become, if people find out this movie and talk about it, I'm probably just people will be like, hey, you look like that guy from that movie. So I'm like, if this movie doesn't get discovered, there's a good comparison.
I would never say that you look like it. I don't think.
I'm just saying that is the type of comparison that I don't need in my life. You know? He's going for his driver's test.
Yes.
And
he's on first name basis with
so funny.
Immediately so funny.
Right out of the gate, yeah. They come flying up, slams on the brakes, and he's like, no.
Crashes into all the pylons.
Yes, there's pylons dragging under his car.
Yeah.
And the guy hands him things, says, see you in 6 months. And he's like, all right, Josh, thanks. So funny.
Very funny.
And I think it was at this point too, but, or maybe, it was during the credits, but, because it's funny because there's a really big actor in this, but the name I saw was Mary Lynn Reichka, which I was like, yes, I love her. So pumped to see this.
Who's maybe not a name people recognize, but if you see her, you will know who she is.
Yes, for sure. Her face you'll recognize immediately. Yeah, she has a role in every comedy TV show.
Yeah, she always has a role in TV shows. I remember her from. She was in 24 for a long time.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That was like her serious role, yeah.
That was her serious role.
I remember the first thing I ever saw her was Dude, Where's My Car? Because I watched it a million times. She was like the girl that's in the Zoltan group.
Yes.
She had a great role in, what's that, Road Trip? Was it? She's like the blind lady.
Yes, the blind lady Road Trip.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. My God.
And she's like, don't feed my dog. He's like, I didn't. She knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's great.
She's great. Also, she's very fun in this. She usually plays pretty dry characters, and she does well in this too. We'll get a little bit into her a bit later, but
so then we go to his work.
His work. He is a store clerk.
Yeah.
That is like his main job.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, seems kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's like just a small town store. He's just a cashier at this grocery store. He has a good friend there who's been there for a while. The manager likes him. Yeah. Who's played by Bruce McGill.
Okay, I didn't know that guy's name.
Yes, he's also another like
person you've seen in a million things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always think of him. He was in a good episode of Home Improvement back in the day. Yes.
He at one point Tracy says, this is a line that I thought was I'm not sure if it was intentionally funny. I thought it was funny, but he says, You're somebody if you have a driver's license.
Right, because, the one guy's like, I thought you liked taking the bus. Like, why do you even want your license?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right.
You're somebody. That made me be like, I hope this doesn't become, like, too, like, treacly after-school stuff, but it doesn't go down that road. It's just
a funny line that's his, like, aspirations in life. It's like driver's license.
Then I'll be somebody.
It's so great. And he gets pulled into the boss's office at work, and the boss is like, "Oh, I have tickets to this show. We can't go. I think you would like it."
Yes,
and also like, maybe you can take a date.
Yeah,
actually, you know what? I'm gonna ask. I forget his wife's name or whatever. I'm gonna ask her
his daughter.
Daughter. Okay, yeah.
I'll ask my daughter if she has any friends, and you see him writing down, and then it cuts to it, and then fat friends?
Question mark. So funny. Oh my God.
We did miss a small thing, which was in the break room. He's there on his break, and he's writing poetry.
That's right, yeah.
And his poetry's actually pretty good. It's not, like, amazing or anything, but it's a good creative outlet, and it will come back.
Well, and I feel like it always would have stuck out if, like, you never want to have a character that's, like, a poet, and then the poetry sucks, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
And then also, I think we meet Helen.
Yes, we meet Helen, which I love. Helen is
so good.
So good. She's just a woman. She's not paraplegic, I don't think.
Right. She's just on a motorized scooter.
She's just on a motorized scooter the whole movie.
Yeah.
Every scene she's on a motorized scooter.
And do we immediately, we know that Tracy does not like Helen?
Tracy hates Helen.
I think
fiery passion.
She tries to be like, oh, what are you writing? And he's like, fuck off, Helen. Like,
yes.
So good.
Immediately. Like, we've never met her before. We know nothing else about her.
And her reaction to it's just like, oh,
okay, yeah,
like no, not mad at all. So great.
So after their tickets to a play,
yes, that's right.
So now we cut to Tracy's family life. He lives at home with Marilyn. What's her name?
Reichkub is his sister.
His sister, who has a massive.
I think her name
Peggy.
is. Yep.
She has a massive teddy bear collection,
yes.
which we'll meet later.
Which we'll meet, yes.
And he lives there with her and his mom.
Yeah.
Who hates him.
Yes.
Who despises him.
Hates her life.
Hates her life.
Everything. Yeah, which, they're sitting down for dinner, and the mom says, I'll say grace, and she says, Father, I'm angry. I've been angry for a long time. Amen. It's like, that's, I think, when I was like, this movie has potential to be amazing. Yes. I'm so pumped.
My moment of being like, oh, this is good, was right before that, when we see it's like a 2-shot waist up or like stomach up of the mom and Tracy, and she's just like, you need to be more careful. Your sister's sewing your pants right now, and we cut out, and he's just standing there without pants on, in his underwear, tiny whities, and he's just like, it's hard to not rip my pants.
He's like, I only bent over to get a roll of quarters for crying out. And then the sister brings him pants back, and she's like, you might want to get a second pair of pants. He's like, it's a good idea, actually. Yes, that was funny. And then so do we go right to the play after that, I think?
She says something about how she talks about the husband who's not there anymore. They are divorced, and she talks about how because she's trying to get Peggy to date more.
That's right.
Peggy doesn't date right now.
Yeah, the mom has a lot of like you shouldn't eat much and you need to date more. Like very judgy.
Yeah. And Peggy's talking just like kind of wishy-washy. She's just like, it doesn't really happen. You don't want to force it. And the mom's like, yeah, if you force it, I end up with somebody like your father. Yeah, I hate his face. That's why I don't like looking at him.
And then she's kind of like, Mom, and he's like, no, it's okay. I do look a lot like Dad, actually. It's like, oh my God, I loved so much of this movie.
It's so funny. It's very well written.
And
now we cut to the play. And we meet...
So pumped.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first, but definitely our last movie featuring a Baldwin brother.
I was so pumped. Because like I said, I saw Marilyn Reichkub's name. I was excited.
Yeah.
I must have missed Billy Baldwin.
Is this Billy Baldwin?
I think so.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to learn which Baldwin brother we're ever talking about.
I'm sure, like, obviously Alec, 30 Rock... Stephen is the one that I've seen the most of because he's in terrible, terrible movies. And then, so I think this is Billy.
There's Billy, and then there's Daniel.
I always see Daniel's always the one I forget.
See, I also forgot Daniel, so I'm pretty sure this is Billy too.
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna remember.
Also, because Billy, I know he's always. I mostly see him in like more serious stuff, I think.
Yeah.
So this is the loosest and funnest I've ever seen him.
This is the loosest and funnest he's been. He's very good here.
Very good. Yeah.
He's the one who looks the most like Alec.
Yeah.
Of the brothers. And I will say, in the Napoleon Dynamite comparison, this is like the karate teacher from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit a little too 1-on-1 for me, in that if I was to rate this as a real movie, that would be a knock against it. But
that's fair. I also and then I guess the only difference is he's in a little more than like Rex Kwon Do was.
Yes,
right?
Rex Kwon Do. But Stephen Baldwin, we'll go. I'm just gonna call him Baldwin. I just have Baldwin throughout.
Billy Baldwin, yes.
Billy Baldwin.
Well, I like his character's name too.
Yes,
Truman Hope.
Truman Hope.
What a great actor's name.
Great actor's name.
Oh man,
great for like a bad actor.
Yes,
and he's great at playing a bad actor.
Yeah,
he's not like bad at acting. He's playing a bad actor, which is harder to do.
And
I feel.
You know what I love too is like, this is how good I feel like this movie is like you're just watching Tracy watch the play and you're immediately like, oh, he's becoming enthralled with acting.
Yes.
So he was so believable. Like he's reading the playbook being like, oh my God, I want to find out everything about this guy. Truman Hope. You see he was in episodes of Jag.
Yes. Episodes of Jag. Oh my God. And it's doubly funny because the play is awful.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be awful. And it's so funny how terrible this play is.
And he can't believe it.
He loves it so much.
It's the guy Lyle from work.
Yeah, Lyle from work.
Who goes to the play in fully uniform, including apron.
falls asleep during the play, and then he wakes up during the applause.
Everyone's
like,
applauding. It's like,
yeah.
That was good. So funny.
So Tracy has fallen in love with acting.
Yeah.
Which I love.
And then so we go to the store the next day, and Tracy's training a new kid at work.
Yes.
What is Candace?
Yes. Yeah. Who I wasn't sure if Candace was a man or a woman for like half of this movie. That was the one thing. Mostly because the name Candace, I'm just like, I only know women named Candace, so that threw me off.
So I think, because it's pronounced, it does sound like, I think it's Candice. I think it's Kendis. I forget where I saw that. I might have looked it up on IMDb or whatever. Yeah. But yes, I for sure was like, oh, Candace, that's a weird...
Yeah.
Which, but yeah, no.
And it also was like in the middle of like emo era kids. So
he did. Everyone has long hair in this movie.
Long hair. Yeah. And he does look like a lot of women I knew from that time.
You know what? A lot of little boys look like women sometimes. Exactly. And that's fine. Because, it just happens.
I'm not going there with you. No, you're alone on that one. I'm sorry.
I just mean because you're not of age. It's like, come on. I still can't grow facial hair,
No, I get
it. But I love how much he's like, this is another character trait I love about this guy is he's like, he knows everything about this job. And it's like first day trying to pass on all the knowledge to this kid he's a kid. He doesn't care about this job.
He's like a teenager.
Right. So he's like, yeah, ideally you want to fit 13 items into every bag. You're new, so aim for 9 and we'll see how it goes. Like, it's so funny. And then also he's like, your shoelaces, you're going to want to double tie those. Do you know how many workplace incidents are caused by untied shoelaces? And the kid's like, I don't know. How many? He's like, 4. And he's like, okay. Just like it's going to be the biggest number ever.
Yeah.
It's 4.
We then cut to Tracy takes him to a pizza place. This is a great scene where... Which, first of all, I was kind of like, that's weird that he's taking this kid to a pizza place, but whatever. Let's go with it. And then they come out with this massive pizza.
Huge XL pizza.
And they put it down, and they're just like, the Tracy. And he's like, I didn't.
We ordered 2 personal-sized pizzas, I'll have you know.
And they're just like, you don't want the Tracy? You get it every day.
And he's like, what? I don't come here. And the kid's like, there's a picture of you on the booth.
And it's right beside them.
And they're like, it's called the Tracy. And they show the board, and it's like, large XL Tracy. Yeah, so funny.
Very funny. He makes them take it back. They get their personal pizzas.
So does he go to... He goes to acting class.
Yes. Yes, he goes to acting class. Because Truman Hope also teaches acting.
Yeah.
This is like the kind of the Rex Kwon seeds of it a little bit.
Yes, I totally understand the comparison you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like, where Tracy is like in the front row. He's so excited. Yeah. And he's there. He's taking notes.
Yes.
And Truman's like,
"What are you doing?
What are you doing?" You cannot learn with this. You cannot learn acting with this. Takes up the book, tosses it. Feel my heart.
Yeah.
Feel my heart. And Tracy puts his hand
on his chest, and then he's like, "What do you feel? Heartbeat?" And he's like, "That's right." And everyone just applauds. Like, everyone can't believe how good this guy is. Yeah. One girl's like almost crying.
Yes.
So funny.
This is where you learn to act. And Tracy falls for it completely.
Yeah.
He's basically in love with Truman. He loves this actor so much.
And also, it's funny. He goes at the end. He's like, "Actually, can I just get that notebook back? I do keep lots of stuff in there."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot all about it."
Yeah.
Is he hanging out with the kids now?
So he's hanging out with the kids.
With Candace and his friends.
Which is kind of weird because all of them are teenagers.
Yeah.
I will say. At this point, I was like, how old is Tracy supposed to be? Right. I was never really certain.
Yeah.
Because I think the actor looks young enough that he could have played like a fresh out of high school guy.
I guess I assumed, but again, this is, I guess, Mary Lynn. I just assumed they were both like late 20s.
They definitely are because we do find out later he's been working at the grocery store for 11 years.
That's right, yeah.
So they are late 20s kind of thing. But also because of her obsession with teddy bears, that also made me think like maybe they're a lot younger than I think.
I just assumed they were both like stunted a little bit.
Yes. But he's hanging out with the bad boys.
Yeah.
So Candace's friends are all the bad kids in school.
Yeah.
I will say here we do get a slur, but not the bad one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
not the worst one.
Because what happens is, yes, I forgot. I skipped a line in my notes. Yes, so Candace is like, I'm going to be in trouble at school. You know how yesterday I was telling you about my dad being hard on me? I'm going to be in trouble at school. They want to talk to my dad. Thing is, no one knows my dad. You're doing these acting classes. Maybe you could pretend to be my dad.
Yes.
Which they have a funny cut joke here where he's like, I'm absolutely under no circumstances ever will do that. Immediately cut to him in the office being
one of my favorites, one of my favorite bits that movie could do.
Yeah, so funny.
And he's in like old man makeup. He's got like a gray in his hair and stuff. And
fake mustache. Yeah.
He's talking like a deep Southern guy.
Yeah, he puts on a character for some reason. Yeah. So funny.
Also, at this point, I was confused about one thing because he's just like, well, how would I get passed off as your father?
Yeah.
Aren't you a Laotian or something?
Yeah. He asks what he is, and he says Laotian. He's like, Lotion? What? And yeah.
But also, he's just a white guy. He's just a white kid. He doesn't look ethnic at all. So, because he does say, like, my mom is from Laos, and my dad's
white guy, so you can pass for my dad.
Yeah, but I'm also just like, he doesn't look half Laos.
And then so then after that he's hanging out with the bad boys, right?
Yes.
And then
because they're all celebrating like, oh, he got him off, way to go, guy,
so great of you. And then they're like, can you do one more thing? He's like, cut to him buying beer and skull like a chew.
Yeah.
And the kids and he comes outside and they just start grabbing the beer and he's like, I thought you said this was for your dad. And he's like, yeah, it's for the lead boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should have it somewhere in my notes, but the lead boy is kind of like, it's for all of our dads. So he's just a little naive to the world. And
I will say at some points it does get a little too naive where it becomes a little unrealistic. Yeah. But again, that's rating this as a real movie, which is a compliment.
And then, you just see like a little montage of him. He's at work. And, has he? He's at work and. Has he been asked to be a manager already, or is that's
this next scene? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's working. He's acting classes. Yes. He's hanging with these boys.
It's kind of like a montage thing. I noticed that they were doing weird hand stuff, which made me think like weird hand motions, which again made me think of Napoleon Dynamite when he's doing the bird.
Yeah.
We did skip a favorite line of mine, which is when he was pretending to be the dad, and he talks about how he impregnated Candace's mom, and he says that he's as potent as a Piccadilly. And I'm just like, I don't even know what that means.
That's the key to being a Southern character. You just say crazy things that sound like a saying.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really funny. And so then it cuts to him. It's a big night at acting class.
Yes.
He's going to do his first scene in front of the whole class. Well, we see him beforehand. He's vomiting.
And we think, and then he gets somebody pokes their head. And it's just like our scene is coming up.
Yeah.
So we think it's like a play. At least I thought it's going to be like a play or something. Yeah. Like, oh, they're doing like a big performance. No, they're just doing
in front of their classmates.
A scene in front of their classmates. Very funny. And he ends up kissing the girl in the scene, which I'm just like, gross. He was just vomiting.
Yeah. She didn't seem to mind.
But he like pauses beforehand, and then he's just like, no, I have to. It's right for the scene.
He looks at Alec Baldwin, it's Billy Baldwin, sorry.
Yeah.
And
just call him Baldwin.
And so you see him be like,
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, all right, I guess if he would do it, right?
Yes.
Because he's a pro. And so, he kisses him. And the class applauds, and then after class he invites the teacher Truman Hope to. He's like, "Oh, there's an actor, Rutger," what? And then he's like, and then Billy Baldwin's like, "Rutger Hauer, he's coming to town," and he's like, "Yeah, he's going to talk about his process and stuff. I just thought you'd like to go." And he doesn't really want to.
No.
But he kind of is like, "No, it's on me. Treat on me.
Yeah,
I just think he'd be fun to hang out with." He's like, "All right, you know what? Sure, I'll throw this kid a bone and go." To this thing.
I was a little worried here that I'm just like, is he going to think that this is like a gay invitation and it's going to be like a weird thing? It never really goes there, so I'm happy because I'm just like, I don't trust Truman Hope with that kind of stuff.
Right, I don't think so either. My favorite thing about this is because during the credits, like I said, they were a little crazy and all over the place. There was one part where it's like, was that a picture of Rutger Hauer that flew by? And I was so confused. And then so when I was like, oh, it was.
Yeah, and I will say, Rutger Hauer does not appear in this movie, unfortunately.
In photo form.
I like the idea that they were trying to get him and they just couldn't for one scene.
Yeah. Oh man. But and then so he's talking with his sister. They're like walking.
They're walking from church because at church they go to church.
They go to church,
and all the bad boys are sitting with them at church. Which I'm just like, they would not come to church.
Well, they're like laughing at how stupid it is,
yes.
right? They're panning down the aisle. Yes. You see the brother, the sister, and then all these boys, and they're all like, "This is so dumb." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then so now they're walking home, and he's like, "No, they're nice to me.
Yeah,
it makes me feel like I'm a teenager." And she's like, "You hated being a teenager."
Yes.
Everyone you hated high school.
Yeah.
And then they have a funny back and forth here where she's like, you really think you can relate to them? And she's like, yeah, you hated being a teenager. What makes you think you can relate to them? And he's like, you sound so dumb right now. And then so now it's the play night, or sorry,
it's the Rutger Hauer
night.
And Tracy gets all decked out. Yeah. He gets all fancied up.
He does get ready like a date, which is was very adorable.
Yes.
And then
he's waiting out front for Truman, and Truman, of course, you never trust a Baldwin.
Never.
He shows up with a girl from the class, Jolene,
and she's got some role, and so he's basically like, listen. Because he's like, Jolene's gonna come with, and he's like, well, I only have the 2 tickets.
Yeah,
and he's kind of pulls him aside. It's like, well, listen, she could really use this experience, and I kind of think she could use your ticket. Mm-hmm. And he's reluctant, sad, but he manipulates it.
Yeah, Tracy is like a pushover.
Yes,
this movie is basically him learning to not be.
Yeah,
is the big.
Very true. Yeah, and so Truman goes with Jolene, who he's also obviously trying to nail, right?
Yes, absolutely. We'll never see Jolene again. And Baldwin will try and nail someone else and do so successfully, and it is very actually bizarre.
And then I also love this next part. It's just,
I knew that you and I would both be like, classic move.
I have done this so many times in my life.
Where Tracy So Tracy goes to a burger shop, orders something, and then it's just like, oh, and what did my friend want? I guess I'll order just a full other meal for my full
meal, and then it's like, and she wanted, yes, that's right. I was like, I have been there, my friend. I loved it so much.
Where you're in the car at the drive-in, and you're just like, what did you say? And then you pull up and you're by yourself.
the amount of times I look at my phone to be like, yeah, that is what they ordered, yeah. I just got it written down here 1 second, and yes, they also want the full exact meal with the same alterations. Thank you.
Yeah, just triple that, please.
So funny. And then so it's also, kind of pointed out, obviously the size of Tracy, like we brought up, he clearly binge eats when he's like depressed or whatever, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like the first time that we kind of see that.
Yeah.
I was gonna point out, so far in this story, nothing really is about his weight.
No.
His weight is never.
The pants maybe slightly jokingly.
Yes, like there's jokes about it.
Yeah.
But this story doesn't need the weight thing at all, really, to make the story work, kind of thing. And I don't think it's a problem at all. But there are times where I'm just like, that joke didn't need to be there, or like
I'll say my I think saving grace point for when it comes up, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but I understand what you mean. Yeah.
I think I'm more thinking like if it never got brought up, I don't think people would be like, why aren't they talking about his weight, kind of thing. Yeah.
And then so we I have in my notes there. He does the old double order trick. And then, so the next day we see him. He's basically writing a breakup letter. Yeah, he's at work and he's basically writing a breakup letter to Truman. Like, well, I thought this and you did this, and then again Helen comes in being like, "What are you writing?" He's like, Helen, fuck,
go away."
And then he gets called into the boss's office.
Yes.
And he gets made assistant manager.
The boss likes him a lot. Yeah. And he's like, I've earned this, Yeah.
He then goes to a movie rental place and is like, is this movie appropriate for does he say
minors?
Minors, yes. And the guy looks at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Cut to them watching a horror movie, clearly. Yes. Chainsaw sounds, all that jazz. And it makes him be sick. Yes. It's so disgusting,
Yeah. And Candace is not like worried about him, but he's like, oh,
he checks on him.
He checks on him.
Yeah, he's the only boy that goes and checks on him. Yes,
we can definitely see that Candace cares more about Tracy, and the other ones are just there to use him.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I think it's after the watching they kind of the lead kid, again, don't have his name, whatever. He's like, hey, it might be Sean. He's like, hey, how much money do you guys make at the store? Mm-hmm. He's like, kind of naive, like we were saying, like, oh, like last weekend we cleared like $3,000. Mm-hmm. And he's like, great. Well, maybe some night when it's just you and Candace working, we come in and you give us the money, and then
because my sister is pregnant.
Right, yeah, they make up a whole story.
Yeah, they make up a whole story out. And, like, we really want to help her out. The baby's father isn't helping anything. And Tracy's just kind of like a doe-eyed. This is where I was kind of like, this seems a little too naive to the world.
They've like, I guess they've presented that he's like, he clearly doesn't have lots of friends. So he just likes hanging out with people, right?
It works, but like, again, rating this on the real movie scale, it would be a ding. But
most people wouldn't fall for this.
Yes.
From a couple of teenagers, I don't think. Yeah.
I do like how he's like, well, what if you just ask my boss if you can have the money? I'm sure he'd love to give it to you.
Right.
And he's like, no, that probably wouldn't work, Tracy. He has lots of money. He drives a Chevy Malibu.
You've seen that Chevy Malibu he drives around in? And then we're at home. We find out Peggy has a date.
Peggy has a date.
She's excited. She looks good.
Yes, and
who's the date with, Rory?
Oh, no. Baldwin, you son of a bitch. It is... I don't know how they would have met. It's never brought up, but it made me question, like, how big is the... Because this was before I knew American Fork was a real place.
Right.
So it made me be like, how big is this town? Mm-hmm. Is, like, Truman Hope famous in this town?
Yeah, I don't know.
Kind of thing. But yes, the date is with Truman Hope.
Yeah.
We did have a good line here where the mom is at the dinner table, like, getting ready, and she says something about how Tracy needs to stop eating so much, and Peggy tries to defend him. He's like, no, I could use to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah. And I also have down, I really love the interaction because the mom comes out to meet him. Yeah. And then maybe the daughter's like, this is my mom, Agnes. And he's like, oh, like Agnes of God. And she's like, what was that? And he's like, it's a play. And she's like, oh, what's it about? And he's like, it's about a nun that gets raped by a lunatic. And the mom's like, oh. And he's like, no, it's actually very moving. Such a fun interaction.
It's a very good play.
And then this is also, we get, because like Tracy, obviously a little miffed at Truman at this point. So they're around the supper table, and they're talking, kind of being like you said, they're he needs to lose weight, and and they're like, oh, but this guy, he's an actor, right? He's been on stuff, and he's like, he's been on an episode of Jag. He
was guest starring as an episode of Jag.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, he was on an episode of Jag, and he's like, actually it was 3 roles, and at that point they called it an extended guest role. Thank you very much.
Extended guest role.
And
this was, I feel like maybe this is a little bit of the Mormonism creeping in, because it's the first date, and the mom is just like, he's gonna give us grandchildren.
Yeah, very creepy. Yeah,
it was very like and like, I mean, not to skip to ahead. She's not wrong.
Yeah. And Tracy's a little hesitant because he's like, this guy, he's not a good guy, right?
Yes.
He's trying to look out for his sister a little bit.
He's trying to look out for his sister. He knows that he thinks that Truman's a little slimy at this point, which he's a Baldwin, so yes. Not wrong. Perfect casting.
Yeah. So now I like this little, one of my favorite interactions again in the movie. There's too many. So they all involve Helen.
It's a great movie. Yes.
Helen. So they're at the store the next day.
Oh, do we want to cut to the next day? Because Truman and Peggy do go up to her room.
Yes. You're introducing the stuffed animals.
Stuffed
collection.
animals. Her room is covered in stuffed animals, and she's on the bed, and she's like, and that's the 140th one. Her name is this.
And they'll have first and last names.
Yes, all have first and last names. And Truman Hope in all of his glory is just like, they all have their own first and last names. They're not your last names, so you don't have a family of your own. And then he kisses her.
Yeah.
And we see Tracy sees it through the window.
He's taking out the garbage and spots it. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Which he looks disgusting by, which I understand, but also I'm just like, your sister went upstairs to her room with a date. That's what happens, Tracy.
Yep. So next day they're at the store, and he spots Helen putting away groceries, and he's like, Helen, when you have those two types of groceries, you should go put the perishables away first.
Yes.
Then the dry goods. And she's kind of like, I'll do it however I want. And he's like, I'm assistant manager now. And she's like, yeah, so am I. I was 6 months ago. So actually I'm ahead of you in seniority. And then she's like, so's Lyle, by the way.
Lyle's been secret assistant manager for like 5 years.
He's like, how many assistant managers do we have?
And he goes in and confronts the boss. Yeah. Before that, I do want to go back just one scene where after the kissing, we do see Tracy lying in bed, and he pulls out a box of donuts from under his bed. So yeah,
again, back to the binge eating.
Back to the binge eating, and also it made me be like, I've had bed donuts. I've had secret. I have.
Hey, sometimes a bed donut just hits right.
Listen, I have a little drawer in my bed where sometimes I'll just have a bunch of candy. And
I just have it in my pillowcase.
Yes, like you could be like, I'm trick or treating. You reach into your own pillowcase and you pull out a candy.
Yeah, I find the comfort of snacks better than a pillow. Yes.
Yeah, but we do see him binging again. Yeah. So it is building up to the he eats when he's depressed. Yeah. He's sad because he eats, and he eats because he's sad. It's a vicious cycle.
And then it's the night that they're gonna do the.
Well, we had he confronts the boss, and the boss is just like, I just like making people happy.
Yeah.
If I give them assistant manager, they get happier.
And he's also like, Candace isn't an assistant manager. The kid who's been there for like a week.
Yeah. But he has potential. And so Tracy is now mad at the boss too.
Yeah.
Because he thought, everything's now coming apart. His sister's dating the guy he hates. His job isn't as important as he thought it was. So he decides to go through with the robbery plan.
Right.
And they talk about how, like, if there's somebody in the store, they're gonna pull a gun just to make
a little show of it, right?
Yeah.
And then the store's closing late at night. We see the boss leave, and
he says, "I'm going to go take her for a spin." It's the Chevy Malibu.
And then so Candace is kind of looking around the shop. There is one kind of straggler customer, and then the boys come in, and then
they're all wearing fake mustaches,
the biggest, most obvious fake mustaches.
Yes,
yeah. And then the guy comes to the counter, and he's kind of like, Tracy's ringing him through, and then he's like, "Oh, excuse me, that came up as $3.99. It's supposed to be this. I'm not paying a penny more for it." But Tracy wants to rush this guy out of the place.
Yes, because the teens are like getting antsy. You can see them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so so the old man's like, oh, like, this is such a weird thing, because he's just like, oh, it's customer appreciation. We just take all this stuff and go. And he's like, something's odd here, and then so he's counting the money as he put it in the bag. He's like, you don't have to count it, just put it all in there. He's trying to put it off. He's like, oh, we didn't have as big a weekend. Maybe you could push it to next, and it'll be a bigger take. Because he's getting nervous, right?
I thought it was less that, because I thought he said, you can come back next week. I thought he was saying, come back next weekend and do it again.
Okay. Maybe that could be. I was thinking
your way makes sense too.
Yeah, I was thinking he was getting a little bit of cold feet.
Yeah, maybe that. That makes more sense.
Yeah, but then we hear sirens.
Yes, it should be noted that he does pull the gun on him.
Yes,
already,
and he's kind of like, I thought you'd only do that if
there's people
around. Yeah.
And he's getting nervous. He's just like, don't point that gun at me,
please. Right. Yeah, I won't be able to do this if you are pointing a loaded gun at my face.
Yeah.
And and then we hear sirens, and Tracy he's like, oh, you know what? And he doesn't give the money over.
Yeah. He puts it back in the till and slams it shut.
Yeah.
And the teens are angry at him, and they're just like, we fucking hate you.
Yeah. And then so, and despite all that, like you hear him giving the description of the robbers, who he said are Mexican gangbangers.
He specifically says cholos.
Yeah, I think they call them cholos. And then a Hispanic officer comes up, and he's like, oh, jeez. So it's good.
The next scene is the lead...
Sean, it is Sean, officially,
calls the cops and says that Tracy has offered him money for sex.
Yeah.
At this point, my note is this is becoming weirdly dark.
Yeah.
Because
so then the cops go to the store, arrest Tracy, and yeah, he's in jail getting like harassed by prisoners because they think he's a child predator. Yeah, it is very dark. And then the mom, obviously now she's really embarrassed. The sister's kind of sad, but they're his brother and family, right?
Yeah. Truman Hope is still there.
Yeah,
he's still with the sister, which we never really explore their relationship that much, but it seems like a little weird that he stays with her. But you know what? I'm happy that they found each other.
Yeah, sure. And then Candace at work says like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I don't even hang out with those guys anymore." And then Tracy gets called in the office.
Yeah.
You're fired.
We have to fire you.
Yeah.
You got arrested for pedophilia.
And then on the way out, he pushes Helen into like a stack of groceries and runs away.
Doesn't say anything. Just goes up to her and pushes her.
And then also Truman and Peggy, you can see, yes, like they're a full couple now. They have a pamphlet for like a cult, basically.
Yes, a cult.
Yes, where they're like, maybe you could go here, and because it'll look better for someone getting charged. They're trying to change themselves for better.
Yeah,
which he's like, I didn't even do it. I don't want to look guilty. And they're like, he's like, I did it. It helped me with my acting. We went as a couple last week.
Yeah,
and then when he says no, they're like, negativity. You see that? The negativity. It's so good.
And then at this point, he goes for audition first.
Yes, he goes to the audition. So Tracy's at an audition, sees Truman there, who he cuts ahead of everyone because he's a big star. You know,
yes.
So he goes in, and then we see Tracy's audition, and they're kind of like, yawn, whatever. But then one guy stops him on the way out, and it's like,
hey, you have a look to you.
Yeah, certain quality. We have your contact info, right? And he's like, yeah.
Now Sean is trying to blackmail Tracy. He's like, hey, I'll drop the charges if you give me
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, $1,000 cash. I'll drop the charges. So he goes and meets up with Sean and two of the lackeys.
They're all wearing masks. He refuses to give them the money.
We also we see one of their shoes, which we realize from the start because Candace is now double tied his shoes.
Yes.
So he now realizes that Candace was lying. He still is hanging out with the boys, and he's also involved.
Okay,
in the
I think
blackmail.
I missed that.
Yeah, that was the reason they. So he was a little heartbroken.
Yes,
that Candace was in on the blackmail, right? So then he's like, "Yeah, I'm not giving you the money. Fuck that." Starts to walk away. They jump him, beat the crap out of him.
Which I was kind of like, if teenagers try to jump on this man, you're not knocking this man out.
He would murder them so fast.
He's a big guy. Yes. He would fucking destroy them.
Yeah, no, it would have been nice. But they beat him up and they take the money. And
he returns home.
Yeah.
He's beat up. And his mom is there, and she's eating.
She's binge eating. Yeah. So this was like
this is a nice moment.
Well, and this is kind of gives them the little nudge to recovery that they need, right? Like he sees her for maybe something she's hidden, and she maybe realizes she's been a little harsh on him.
Yes.
And because she has flaws as well, right? So yeah.
I do wish that maybe we had like a little bit more of her not being... not hating him constantly to be like, oh, she's a character too kind of thing. That would have sold a little bit more. But again, that's rating it as a real movie. As an absolutely obscure movie, beautiful. Loved it.
Yeah, they have a little nice thing, and she's like, I'm a terrible mother, and he says, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person. She says, of course you're not. And, it's really nice.
It's very nice.
And then Candace is hanging out with the guys, right? And they're like...
And they're
being dirtbags.
And he has a change of consciousness. Yeah. And he calls the police, and he tells them what happened.
Yeah. And so the kids get arrested. No charges
on Tracy. And now we cut to a few months later, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And it's Tracy and all his friends and his family, except for Truman and Peggy, who I think have their own place and a kid. Was there a baby there?
I didn't see a baby, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Yes.
And then, so all the grocery store people and they're all...
Including Helen.
Helen's there.
Yeah.
and they're watching a show it's like a spoof of like old 60s Star Trek.
Yes.
And Candace, I mean, sorry, no, Tracy's in it. He plays like an alien.
Yes, he plays like a caveman alien blob man. They specifically call him the Blob Man. And he's like,
comes up from behind a rock with a spear.
Yeah.
The captain stabs him. He has a little death.
That little death scene.
And it's like, oh man, he was on TV. That's awesome.
It's very fun.
And then, like you said, my favorite part with because we see the sister and Truman watching it separately, and Truman goes, I could have done that.
I could have done that.
Such an asshole.
And now we're wrapping up the movie.
Yeah.
And we see him go back to his driver's test, and he passes this time.
Yeah. And the whole time he's, I think, at the same place, but he's out on the porch. He's going through his poetry book.
He's going through his writing new poetry. He's writing new poetry, and through the voiceover, we see the montage of things getting better again
as he's telling him a poem.
Yes,
because the reason he's telling it is because Helen comes outside.
Yes,
and she's kind of like again, like, hey, what are you writing? And he's like, you know what, I'm writing some poetry. And she's like, oh, that's nice. Do you mind if I hear it?
I like poetry. Yeah. Can I hear some?
And he's like, you know what? Yeah, I will tell you. So yeah, the whole time he's telling this poem. And we see him get his driver's test. He passes. That's nice.
He's back at the store.
Right.
Life is good.
Life is back.
You know what? He's gained confidence, and he's not going to be a pushover anymore.
That's right. And then it cuts back to the porch that they're on, and he finishes the poem, and she's like, "It's not for me."
Roll credits.
I loved it so much.
Fantastic. Go see this movie.
Oh, so good.
This is a very funny movie. I'm so happy that the writers and the director are both still working. I wish he acted more.
Yeah,
he's very good.
So good.
He's very natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was a great movie.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we've discovered this.
Yeah, no, I was like, I wanted the porch scene. I was really hoping, because there was like an underlying, the fact that Helen was nice to him the whole time. It's like, oh, maybe she likes him.
Yeah, like I thought too. I thought like, oh, she has a crush on him.
And then so at the end when she was like, yeah, I want to hear your poem. And I was like, if this ends with them finally getting together, I will be so excited. The turn of her being like, I don't like that poem at all. I was like, way better ending.
Yes.
So funny.
So funny.
There was also one, I had it in my notes. I think it was just before they watching the TV show together. Mm-hmm. We see him go in the grocery store. And we see another Helen moment that I loved. She's like just barely, has a giant broom, and she's on her scooter, and she's going back and forth and sweeping. Not doing anything. No. That's not accomplishing anything. Yeah. But it's so funny.
It's so funny. This was a great movie.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we found it.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you liked it too. I assumed you would, but it was really good.
All right. Speaking of great movies, it's time to decide the next two movies. I have some bad news. I don't know if we're gonna find another American Fork.
There's nothing in. Oh yeah.
In these, these are your 5 titles that you get to choose from.
Okay.
Choose 2 of them. Okay. First we have Tomcat, Dangerous Desires.
Is that one title?
That's one title. Tomcat, Dangerous Desires.
Sounds like a Fatal Secret sequel.
Yeah. Then we have Wedding Band.
Okay.
Wedding Band.
Uh-huh.
We have Funky Town. Funky Town.
Okay.
We have Gossamer Folds.
Okay.
Gossamer Folds.
Yeah.
And finally, Phil.
Phil?
Phil.
Just the name Phil?
Just the name Phil. Just Phil.
Oh, God. Ugh. Okay. All right. The one that's jumping out to me.
Yep.
Because it seems potentially like the least bad.
The least bad.
Is Funky Town.
Funky Town. All right. Funky Town has a 6.4 on IMDb.
Okay.
With 934 votes. That's the most we've had so far, I'm pretty sure.
This might be another Oscar nominee.
This might be. And it has 541 Letterboxd people.
Okay.
This is 1976.
Oh.
Montreal.
Is that the oldest movie we've done?
No, like the year.
Oh, like that's when it's set? Okay, sorry, yes.
Sorry. Set in 1976. 1976 Montreal. Mm-hmm. 8 people who want to see and be seen at the trendiest disco will be juggling fame and anonymity. We'll be juggling fame in that word until they will be forced to make sober choices in an era when excess was the norm and when disco was king.
Yes. Okay, good. So, the only thing from Funky Town, I was like, maybe disco's involved?
Maybe. We'll see. And it is.
Okay, interesting.
All right.
And Kate, sorry, can I get the other 4 one more time?
Yes, we have Tomcat, Dangerous Desires.
Yeah.
Then we have Wedding Band.
Okay.
Gossamer Folds. And Phil.
Okay. Let's go with Gossamer Folds.
Gossamer Folds. This also, it might be Gossamer Fields, and I misspelled it.
Okay, that could be.
That could be. All right, so this was released in 2020. It has a 6.9 on IMDb with 135 votes.
Okay.
So,
it's just all the cast liked this movie and reviewed it.
And then 191 people on Letterboxd. Uprooted to a Kansas City neighborhood, a 10-year-old boy develops an unlikely friendship with a retired professor and his transgender daughter.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That just seems like a simple drama.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
All right.
We'll find out.
Okay.
So you guys can check those out next time. If you're still listening, thank you guys so much for listening and watching Absolutely Obscure with Josh and Rory. If you like the podcast, please share it around. We're just starting out still. We're having fun with it. Yeah. You can follow us on Instagram at Absolutely Obscure Pod. You can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, all whatever the fuck we're on.
LinkedIn, probably.
You can email us at absoluteobscurepodcast@gmail.com if you have any reviews, if you have any comments, concerns, whatever.
Some word of mouth helps the pod as well.
Absolutely.
You can also, you should follow us. You can follow us individually.
Yes.
At the True Rory.
And
Real Funny Josh.
Thank you to our producer, Aaron Campbell. He's the best.
The best that we can afford right now.
Yeah. And thank you to Matt Prince for our theme music.
Yes.
And thank you guys so much for listening.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.